Good day and welcome to our Saturday morning broadcast for Tourismus Namibia. I hope we've got an interesting program for you this morning. Apart from the interview which we bring you later and destinations as always, let's start off with the topics. Yeah, maybe I have forgotten and maybe I should just introduce myself. I'm Frank Steffen, editor of the Allgemeine Zeitung, the German paper, and I obviously am part of the editor team for Tourismus Namibia or Tourismus Namibia. First and foremost, I think probably for all of us, the best news was to hear that as from next week, Namibia will be entering stage 3 of the COVID lockdown. In Namibia that we reversed the order. Most of the others have their various stages. In our case, number 1 is the worst stage, 2 is a relaxation of the rules, and then 3 a further relaxation, and 4 is a normalization if there is ever a normalization again. So the more important part is that we have actually reached that. Sadly enough, Walvis Bay obviously not. By now that's old news for most of you. But what I thought was quite interesting, because a number of our editors had a different way of interpreting it, and so I got stuck into it. Maybe just for the restaurants, seeing that we're a tourism broadcast here. There is a difference made between restaurants, cafes and kapana traders, and on the other side, liquor outlets, shebeens and bars. And so specifically the question was, will restaurants be allowed to serve alcohol for dinner or whatever to their customers? And it actually says on 8.1, these businesses may reopen for sit-down dining in adherence to the directives of the Liquor Act and the operational guidelines as provided by Ministry of Industrialization. Now this has always been the case, and essentially because MIT actually manages the alcohol licenses. So typically what you find now is that people are allowed to sit down, have lunch and be served alcohol, with the proviso that everything has to be uncorked. And I think this is where the big difference is, because they further say restaurants may only open for pre-booked customers, no walk-in clients permitted, and this provision does not apply to informal traders. The public is reminded to avoid sharing public pens in completing customer registers and so on. And then they said food and buffets in restaurants should only be handled by service staff. So this is as far as restaurants, cafes and kapana traders are concerned. Now liquor outlets and shebeen bars, that's where it says they may only operate from 12 to 1800, Monday to Saturday, as per the directives of the Liquor Act again. No sale of alcohol permitted on Sundays. And then they say the buying and selling of alcohol is only permitted for takeaway. Now it was that point where many of the restaurants were under the impression, and many people in fact were under the impression that not even in a restaurant you may take it. But it's specifically what it is all about. Restaurants should not suddenly be converted into a second-hand bottle store. So they cannot sell to the public as such and allow them to take the alcohol home or whatever. The idea is to be served alcohol if you're there as one of the customers. And in order to make this clear, I actually phoned Gita Petzold. She's the director of HAN, the Hospitality Association of Namibia, and she actually confirmed that they specifically asked the minister to please have that included, because they were of the opinion that a restaurant that serves only food but nothing to have as a drink, as an alcoholic beverage, would not really help the restaurants much. So I hope that gives you a bit of clearance in that regard. Yeah, and then further to the news, we also this week we had a ship which is still stranded up front in Walvis Bay. It's been cruising up and down. As you can see, there's the Carnival Fascination is the luxury liner's name, and it's cruising to and fro for the simple reason they've got 7 Namibians and about 120 other Africans, mostly from countries surrounding Namibia or neighboring Namibia, they've got these guys on their ship. They were supposed to repatriate them, and originally they would have gone to Durban, but were then asked to rather approach Walfish Bay. Walfish Bay, on the other hand, has their border closed, just like any other border. So it seems that there's not a quick solution found at this stage. So let's hope they get it done quite fast, because obviously all those people need to go into quarantine no matter what. Yeah, and then I wanted to speak a bit about travel in Namibia as such. In Namibia, we currently find that people still seem to be in the tourist trade, not really approaching a point where they're thinking out of the box. At least that's my impression. There are so many opportunities out there which have not been used yet. I actually had a discussion with one of the people in our studios yesterday, and I actually gave them a few ideas for better word. If I look at tourism travel, for example, there seems to be that big understanding that our people always have to climb onto a plane and go to Europe and take part in a big tour. I'm sure if our people made the right choices and calculated their sums correctly, disregarding all these various handling fees and commissions which they have to pay to traveling agents overseas and possibly even here, and they look at their true earning on the individual tour item or visiting item, I'm quite sure that we should be able to approach our schools. People, at the moment, children are often hanging around at home, being homeschooled, and so why not organize a educational trip for these kids instead of always these so-called educationals for sellers of the various agencies? Why not go and have smaller tours for students that fit their budgets? Why does it always have to fit only a budget for somebody who comes with euro or US dollar? I'm sure if we looked around it and we made it shorter tours, and we made it tours which allow these people to maybe buy their own food in a limited way. There are 100 ideas floating around, but I truly feel that our tourism has not yet put out enough options for people. If we look at the past long weekend, many people were visiting all over Namibia. I spoke to a couple of people who maintained that Etosha was brimful of locals. Now, obviously, on a long weekend, you will have more such issues or more such visitors. But I'm sure that even during a normal month, you would be able to entice people to come. If you told them, listen, you know what, we'll give you the opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, come and view our rhinos here, come and view our lions, or whatever you've got that makes you special. Come to the desert, we've got these special destinations, we'll show you what the wind eroded and left in terms of sculptures and whatever. I'm sure that we should be able to get something right. And so I would make a call on all tourist operators to, especially now that we getting a bit back to normal, just make a plan, think about it, recalculate. Don't calculate profit, calculate break even. Let's just get through the next 12 months. So yeah, and that brings us to the next section of the show, the destinations. So as you can see, we've got Chloe Deer back in the studio with us. Obviously, destinations is what she specializes in. Most of you will remember by now that she writes for Tourismus Namibia, which is obviously our magazine. And she always gives us these interesting diaries and travel reports. So today she wants to tell us a bit more about the people. Instead of always just doing destinations per se, many of us travel to Malawi, Tanzania, wherever we go, and then we're so happy to tell people how people are different there. Well, I've got news for you. People are different in our place as well, and also worthwhile taking a look at. And so what she's done, she's compiled a bit of a show of all her photos, showing you a bit how education works in the north, and then we're also looking at barber shops, which are frequent up there. And then obviously the highlight for today is in the south, where you've got Kalahari, where she joined a desert ride. So yeah, barbershops and education. Education obviously is a good one.
Yeah, I think, well, traveling to the north, you'll see school children everywhere unless it's a Sunday, and the distances they have to travel in order to get to where they're going, it's quite phenomenal. But there were some special moments, like the pictures you're seeing now was an adult literacy class where they were learning how to read English by reading the Bible together with the
Stuff, yeah.
and it was just a beautiful sight for me to see, underneath the trees, sitting together. And then also this preschool that was just along the side of the road, and all the children were singing nursery rhymes underneath the tree. And
cool.
It just goes to show how, obviously it's not ideal that schooling and education has to be done outside of a classroom, but it's incredible that people like this teacher here have taken the initiative to really, not let, economics stand in the way of teaching the children and looking after the children. So I sang nursery rhymes with them and things like that. It was actually
Oshivambo or not?
I just kind of sang and clapped and went along with it, but it was just, it's wonderful that they're not limited, and it does make you wonder what's going on now with COVID and everything.
Yeah.
Thankfully, even then, this was last year already, they were making an effort to educate despite the circumstances. So yes, not having access to e-learning and things like that is problematic, but it is beautiful that they're using the Bible as their resource, or just as plants as a way of counting. It was just wonderful to see. And this is a barber shop, and I actually had been traveling, and they were all getting ready for school, and all of their hair had to be very short,
shaven,
so they're all very neat and tidy. But it was also another very special experience because they had a whole signage of all the different cuts that they can choose from, and it was beautiful because it's all just pride, and they have to look neat for school. And so it was just, those two are just more, I always talk about the north, and I think we've moved on to the Kalahari here, but that was also another highlight, was horse riding in the Kalahari dunes, and very special experience actually. It's part of Bagatelle, and you can just go for miles, and you actually are accompanied by, it's cowboy riding, and you're accompanied by some local bushmen, and they take you and you literally ride alongside they have a rhino there and some giraffe and all sorts of things. It's just exceptionally beautiful. At sunrise, actually it was quite funny. As I was getting onto the horse, I lost my my SD card, and it was the biggest nightmare because it was the entire trip was on that SD card, and after they tracked it down. I don't know how they found it in the sand, but it just goes to show
a bit of a different approach to you.
Really incredible how they found that in the middle of the desert. But very special.
But one needs to point out that those were obviously taken before the good rains. This was like in February when you were there. Obviously that, and then obviously also you can see there on the northern parts that was still sort of dry brush and so on. So these are not new photos. What we're trying to do with destinations is always give you a new idea where to go, what to see, and so on. And I'm on record for always saying that one of the regions that are totally underestimated are our so-called 4O regions up in the north, Ovambo land for that matter. I go there and I do wild camping, and many people don't realize you've still got those spaces where you could do it. Whenever you talk to people, they will say, in Cocoland you can still go and stop anywhere and just camp. You just need to be beware of possibly elephants or lions if you're closer to the lion and the desert adapted lions than an elephant.
And take enough water. Obviously.
Exactly, but the thing is, the whole north is like that. Even Kavango, wherever you go, you can theoretically, if you're a nice group and you feel this is a nice spot, I tell you invariably what will happen is people will approach you and say, hey, what are you doing? And then if you tell them, listen, I found this was a nice spot and I want to camp here, they actually laugh and are amused by the fact that you actually think their home is so nice. But it is, and so go for it. Get to know our people, not only the lions and the elephant. We've got interesting people in Namibia and interesting places.
Very much so.
So enjoy. Hi, welcome back. With me in the studio, as you can see, is Carol-Jean Rechter. She's the Managing Director of Joe's Beer House. And we wanted to just find out from her what is going on in her business so far. So how have you handled this whole COVID issue so far?
Well, we acted fairly quickly because we took the right conclusions right in the beginning. When the first cases were reported, we immediately switched over to takeaway and delivery, especially delivery, because that is the difference. We understood that the lockdown will force people to stay at home. Therefore, it was sensible to deliver the food directly to the house instead of people coming to us. And it proved to be right. But since the lockdown has been, let's say, lightened, the sales obviously went down. But even so, it was a little drop in the ocean, considering that we hosted about 450 people per day, and the deliveries in the good times or good week was about 20 a day maximum.
Wow, so technically you had to quickly make a plan and diminish your numbers quite substantially, you said, is it?
Which numbers?
The numbers of your personnel,
yeah.
They went down.
Also, we already saw the impact coming in January, because we do get a lot of Chinese guests, and bookings stopped around the middle of January, so we were already on alert what was facing us, and we took steps in cutting benefits and so on. We were hoping we would be able to survive that way, but every day it became more clear that we have to go over to more drastic measures, which actually then led us to retrench the complete company. Everybody was retrenched, but this was before the lockdown and the new legislations were passed on.
So this is quite substantial, and I suppose with the president having just announced that that stage 3 will start coming Tuesday, I suppose you now sit in a situation where you have to find new people, or will you just re-employ?
What we did, obviously, because of the delivery service that we had and a little bit of takeaway, we recruited from our old staff, if I can phrase it like that, on a casual basis, but we've had time to prepare, and everyone that was employed at Joe's Beer House was able to apply again for the new positions. And of course, now going forward, firstly, the delivery required maximum 15 staff members. Before we were 124 staff members, and now the opening of the restaurant next week will probably be very slow. Of course, there's no tourists, so we can never assume that we would be having 450 people. Accordingly, we have just increased the number of staff to maybe between 24 and 30, and we hope to grow slowly. And as business maybe picks up again, then of course we will be looking at the staff that have been retrenched, how many we can accommodate again.
So technically, if we look at it traditionally, how many of your customers were locals?
Well, we never had exact statistics, but we could say 85% was tourism, and I would say 15% was more the local market. That's just a sort of a guess.
But having said that, I'm sure what you're saying is that if we say local tourism, then you'd only talk of roughly 15% Namibians. But I'm quite sure that your guests also included South Africans and those. So once there's a improvement in terms of South Africans being able to travel again, Botswana people coming here, because I actually saw them in your place last year in December quite frequently. So as and when these borders open up again, there should be an improvement in your business, should it not?
Well, that was an advantage always in the past, because when the South Africans have their school holidays, we were frequented very much so in June, July. But we also assume that even if borders open, all countries have been affected so badly that the economy will probably not allow many people to come through. Not being pessimistic, but we were realistic from the beginning. We knew already when we started with the delivery that tourism would not recover before the end of the year. We saw it then already, and I don't think I'm far off, and it's not about me being right.
Yeah, and then I remember you actually spoke to me some time ago about the fact that loyalty programs and this sort of thing, you were a bit edgy about the fact that people seem to go and say all tourism never really looked at local tourism. Whereas there were companies like yours or places like yours that did concentrate on locals. Maybe you want to expand a bit on that?
Yes, I know that, or I assume, and had some feedback sometimes being criticized, we only care about the tourists. Yet we have had a loyalty program up and running about 7 years ago. It was in place before this sort of drama happened, and it will be available from next week onwards as well. I would just say, being guilty of not having promoted it enough to the public. It was and is on our website, it is visible in the menu, but we never went the extra mile to make the local community aware of this product. It's a loyalty program. It allows you a discount. Before the discount, when I say before COVID happened, was about 4.5%. We have decided to increase that to 7%. Difference before was also you had to accumulate your points. In other words, you had to come 1 or 2 times before you could redeem your points, and we are reversing that strategy by allowing an immediate discount. So all you need to do is apply for the card. It is for free. You would have to get it at the restaurant. And then it'll be activated immediately, and should you come there and then and have a meal, then you will be discounted immediately.
And so how will this happen forward now? You know, when you open up next week, does that mean the whole facility will be open again, or will you only open part of it and sort of try and use those areas and get people more concentrated? Because I'm sure if you put in 50 people in there, they literally get lost and you have to try and find them.
Yeah, it always has been, because at lunchtime under normal circumstances we closed off certain areas simply because the service is better and it gives you this cozy feeling. But cozy feeling is the one thing we need to avoid now. But being such a large restaurant, there is space for Africa. And we will adhere to the rules, and my understanding is that according to the square meters is what we will be allowed to accommodate. So there has to be 1.5 meter difference or distance rather. So we haven't made calculations yet, but I also am a little bit on the pessimistic side that there won't be that many people coming, but I hope to be surprised pleasantly.
Yeah, well, I do hope you will be surprised pleasantly, because I'm quite sure that there are a number of people who are so thirsty they'll try and make up for 1.5 months lost. So yeah, be it as it may, as you can see, the restaurants are obviously looking forward to opening again. So let's wish Carol Jean and her husband the best of luck in trying to get a new restart after COVID-19. Good luck.
Thank you, and much appreciated.
Yes, and that brings us to the end of today's show. Finally, as has become habit, I would like to show you our picture of the week. It's an older picture already, but it is a picture by a reader nonetheless. Inge Bennett sent it out. And if you look at this, this is exactly what I spoke about a bit earlier in the show, where wind and erosion has sculpted, together with water obviously, has sculpted these magic features in our desert. And there's so many similar items like that in our country. So go and enjoy. And with that, I wish you a further happy weekend. I hope you have a nice weekend, and look forward to Tuesday, when once again we enter stage 3 and hopefully getting closer to a bit of normalization. Thank you for watching, and I wish you well.